Nagisa Shiota, an ordinary outcast dumped into Class 3, the school's trash bin for failures and delinquents like yourself, didn't expect much from his final year. That is, until the government assigns their class a mission: assassinate their new teacher. One problem: he's a yellow tentacled alien who already blew up the moon, moves at ultra speed, and regular bullets doesn't even work on him. May sound like an average day in America, but the weirdest of all, he's actually not such a bad guy. Just an ordinary day in class he is. Everyone nervously waits for their homeroom teacher. Why would they all be nervous, you may ask? Well, as he sets up the attendance book and instructs the class leader to begin an exercise. When he commands bow, the students raise their BBs and fire, but the teacher easily dodges the harmless BB pellets and begins taking attendance. Despite the commotion, the teacher expresses satisfaction that everyone is present. Just an average day in America. Frustrated, the students complain that he's too fast and impossible to hit if they fire simultaneously. The teacher counters, explaining that his Mach 20 speed makes simple numerical strategies ineffective, urging them to think creatively to surpass him. The students grumble that BB pellets shouldn't hurt him, but the teacher demonstrates otherwise. He takes one of their BBs, fires it at his own limb, and proves it causes significant pain. He explains the pellets were specially designed by the government to harm him, warning the students to only shoot when they truly aim to hurt him. Teasing them, he challenges the class to succeed in killing him before they graduate. After the demonstration, he instructs them to put their weapons away and starts the lesson. During the English lesson, Yuma answers a question correctly. Meanwhile, Keano quietly points out the moon to Nagi, prompting him to reflect on how bizarre their situation has become. Nagi recalls two key events from the start of their third year. First, the moon's sudden transformation into a crescent, making global headlines, and second, the arrival of the being responsible for the moon's destruction. That same creature announced its plan to obliterate Earth within a year and declared itself their new homeroom teacher. The students were shocked and unsettled. Their confusion deepened when Karasuma, a representative from the Japanese Ministry of Defense, introduced himself and revealed classified information. He confirmed that the creature had indeed destroyed 70% of the moon and would target Earth next March. Karasuma stated the government's solution: they were to kill the creature. When Nomura asked if the creature was an alien, it clarified that it originated from Earth. Karasuma corroborated this claim, explaining that only world leaders were aware of the situation to prevent global panic. To their surprise, the creature had agreed to teach Class E under two conditions: it wouldn't harm the students, and it would remain in close proximity to them daily, allowing the government to monitor it and provide the students with an opportunity to kill it. Karasuma demonstrated an anti-sensei knife, a specialized weapon capable of harming the creature, and attempted to attack. However, the creature easily evaded him, mockingly trimming his eyebrows mid-fight to display its speed and precision. Despite its overwhelming power, the students were given a mission: to find a way to exploit its weaknesses using specially designed weapons that wouldn't harm humans. If successful, they would receive a reward of 10 billion yen, a motivation tied to the fate of the planet. When Nakamura impulsively attacked the teacher during Karasuma's briefing, she was scolded and ordered to focus on her studies, highlighting the balance they had to maintain between assassination attempts and academics. Nagi reflected on how their placement in Class E had already made them outcasts, facing constant discrimination. Now, their strange new mission offered a chance to prove themselves. Karasuma emphasized the gravity of their task, reminding them that failure meant Earth's destruction. The creature taunted them, urging them to enjoy their final year and work hard to fulfill their mission. Later, during lunch, the teacher joked about flying to China for Mapo Tofu, casually offering students a chance to eliminate him while he was away. Despite his lighthearted demeanor, the students couldn't deny his exceptional teaching skills, which Nagi quietly admired. Terasaka, another student, approached Nagi with a plan to assassinate their teacher. Outside, Terasaka dismissed Nagi's observations about the creature's color-changing skin, which reflected its emotions, insisting that such details weren't necessary for their plan. He handed Nagi a bag, instructing him to act when the teacher least expected it. Nagi's thoughts drifted to his past experiences of rejection and the humiliation of being relegated to Class E. His resolve to execute the plan was fueled by a desire to prove himself. When their teacher landed nearby using a rocket, Nagi felt momentarily overwhelmed but steeled himself. During the fifth period, the teacher assigned a creative task: composing a song. When Keano inquired about his name, the teacher suggested they give him one. Observing the teacher's tired expression, Nagi seized the moment to approach with a folded paper and a hidden knife. Nagi planned to strike while the teacher seemed vulnerable, recalling his classmates' determination to carry out their mission. However, the teacher intercepted his attempt effortlessly, advising him to rethink his strategy. Undeterred, Nagi revealed a toy grenade and clung to the teacher, signaling his classmates to act. When Terasaka detonated the grenade, BB pellets scattered everywhere, but the teacher shed its outer skin to shield Nagi from harm. As the dust settled, the students realized the teacher's unique biology enabled it to survive the attack unscathed. The teacher praised Naga's natural instincts while reprimanding the others for their carelessness, emphasizing the importance of teamwork and vigilance. Nagi appreciated the unusual education they were receiving, which made him feel noticed for the first time in his life. The teacher reminisced about a request from a woman who had asked it to use its abilities to guide Class E despite its intentions to destroy Earth in March. It expressed a genuine desire to teach the students until then. Nagi, however, remained resolute in his mission, vowing to find a way to kill the creature. The teacher, ever teasing, dared Nagi to succeed, reminding him that their class would end otherwise. As the class debated names for their eccentric teacher, Keano suggested Koro-sensei, a play on words combining Kurasu and sensei. The name stuck, encapsulating the paradox of their assassination classroom. Nagi pondered the challenge of their mission, acknowledging that Koro-sensei was not only their target but also a remarkably effective teacher. The day before school starts, Koro-sensei reads a newspaper article about the moon while relaxing in Hawaii. Meanwhile, in Japan, Sugino and Nagi attempt to assassinate him using anti-sensei BBs, with Sugino relying on his baseball skills to launch an attack. However, Koro-sensei easily catches the ball and advises them to focus on their future graduation instead. In class the next day, Nagi shares their failed attempt with Keano. After critiquing a student's drawing, Koro-sensei casually leaves for a baseball game in New York City. While he's away, the students speculate about what kind of souvenir he might bring back. The following day, Karasuma checks in on Class E's progress. Despite their complaints about their training, Karasuma remains indifferent, leaving Nagi puzzled. During lunch, Koro-sensei returns the baseball to Sugino and offers thoughtful advice about improving his pitching technique. Using his tentacles to inspect Sugino's arm, Koro-sensei demonstrates his genuine intent to help rather than mock. Initially, Nagi misinterprets this as ridicule due to their class's lower status, but Koro-sensei clarifies his sincerity by presenting Sugino with an autograph from his baseball idol. Encouraged by Koro-sensei's support, Sugino resolves to develop his unique pitching style and embrace his individuality. Later, Nagi follows Koro-sensei to thank him and to ask why he is so invested in helping them. Koro-sensei recalls his promise to guide the students and helps Nagi refine his report. This interaction takes a humorous turn when Nagi discovers an unexpected bonus tucked into his diary, lightening the mood. Nagi reflects that Koro-sensei's unwavering drive is one of his most admirable traits. Motivated, Sugino begins working on perfecting his new curveball technique. In the forest, Koro-sensei enjoys lunch, but 6 classmates approach him under the guise of camaraderie and attempt to stab him. With lightning reflexes, he replaces their knives with tulips from a previous class activity, leaving them bewildered. Realizing his misstep, Koro-sensei plants new tulip bulbs as an apology. Meanwhile, Nagi begins compiling a list of Koro-sensei's weak points, which mostly turn out to be personality quirks. Keano and Sugino doubt the usefulness of these observations but remain entertained. Elsewhere, Karasuma meets the school's principal, who formally introduces him as the new PE teacher. Karasuma shares his intention to incorporate assassination training into the curriculum. While on campus, he overhears students discussing the academic benchmarks required to escape Class E and notices the school mascot's contradictory message about equality. Later, he visits the old building where Class E is housed and encounters Keano. She recounts a recent incident where Koro-sensei apologized to the class by allowing them to tie him up, hang him from a tree branch, and stage a mock attack. The students eagerly took advantage of this rare opportunity, but Koro-sensei playfully turned the situation to his advantage. As the tree branch snapped under his weight, he showed his first weakness: he becomes unsteady when showing off. When he fell to the ground, he panicked, a second weakness, as the students launched another wave of attacks. His exaggerated rolling around on the ground had them laughing uncontrollably. To escape, Koro-sensei jumped onto the roof and assigned them more homework as punishment, revealing a third weakness: his impatience. Despite his antics, the students remained undeterred, finding humor in the chaos. Karasuma observed the class with growing curiosity, struck by how joyful they seemed despite being relegated to society's bottom rung. Their camaraderie and determination stood out against a system designed to marginalize them. At the Ministry of Defense, a boy named Karma Akabane faces potential suspension due to his reckless behavior. Informed about Class E's secret assassination mission, Karma is warned that disclosing classified information would result in his memories being erased. However, Karma is unfazed by the weight of the task. Known for his violent tendencies and delight in killing both animals and people, he views the opportunity to join Class E and target Koro-sensei as a thrilling new challenge. During PE class, the students of Class E were under the watchful eyes of Koro-sensei, and Karasuma. Karasuma criticized Koro-sensei for not properly training the students in assassination techniques and decided to take over their PE sessions to teach them how to kill. He invited 2 students to attack him, easily deflected their efforts, and announced that if they could surpass him, they would become true assassins capable of defeating Koro-sensei. The students felt inspired by Karasuma's words, their energy and enthusiasm reigniting. Koro-sensei, jealous of Karasuma's newfound popularity, was dismissed with a reminder that his job was only to teach. The atmosphere shifted when Karma Akabane returned to the class. Nagi was surprised by the mysterious student, who immediately approached Koro-sensei. Greeting him with a handshake, Karma abruptly broke Koro-sensei's tentacles, shocking everyone.
とりあえずよろしく先生。先生ひょっとしてちょろい人？
Koro-sensei retreated in pain, while Karma smirked, brandishing a blade and declaring his intent to enjoy killing him. Observing this, Nagi reflected that Karma hadn't changed. He still relished conflict and fighting. Yet, he acknowledged that Karma's boldness made him the most capable of assassinating Koro-sensei. Later in class, Koro-sensei seemed uncharacteristically uneasy. When a student asked to begin a quiz, Koro-sensei deflected, assigning homework instead. Karma casually remarked that he'd already finished his task and produced ice cream he'd brought for Koro-sensei from another country. As Koro-sensei lunged to grab it, Karma's hidden trap, a ball, sent him reeling in pain. Karma taunted him, asking if he planned to retaliate. But Koro-sensei calmly replied that he wouldn't kill a student. Karma mocked his hesitation, claiming it made killing him even easier. Karma's intelligence and unpredictability continued to unsettle Koro-sensei. After scoring perfectly on an assignment, Karma witnessed 2 students mocking Nagi for being in a weak class. Intervening, Karma wielded a broken glass bottle, frightening the bullies into fleeing. Turning to Nagi, Karma revealed his dream of killing a teacher and declared that Koro-sensei would be the target to fulfill that ambition.
ちゃんとした先生を殺せるなんてさ。
One day, Koro-sensei arrived in class to find what appeared to be a dead octopus. Karma smugly suggested it was him. However, Koro-sensei turned the situation around, transforming the octopus into a gourmet dish before Karma could escalate his prank. As an additional twist, Koro-sensei replaced Karma's sword with nail polish in the blink of an eye, leaving Karma flabbergasted. Even at breakfast, when Karma devised another plan to trap him, Koro-sensei thwarted it with ease, showcasing his speed and ingenuity. Nagi observed these exchanges and wondered how Karma could ever surpass Koro-sensei's abilities. She offered to work together with him to increase their chances of success, but Karma declined, insisting he would handle it alone and already had the skills to do so. One day, Karma stood on the edge of a cliff, waiting for Koro-sensei. When Koro-sensei approached, urging him to come to class, Karma posed a question: would Koro-sensei risk his life to save a student in danger? When Koro-sensei affirmed his commitment, Karma leapt off the cliff, holding a gun to test the teacher's resolve. As he fell, Karma reflected on a past incident with a cruel teacher who had humiliated him and caused his expulsion from school. His anger had driven him to kill that teacher, cementing his vendetta against authority figures. Back in the present, Karma was sure he would die from his reckless stunt. But Koro-sensei saved him by using his tentacles to create a web, catching him before he hit the ground. Touched by this act, Karma begrudgingly acknowledged Koro-sensei as his teacher. Watching from afar, Nagi remained composed, observing the shift in Karma's attitude. Still cheeky, Karma fished money out of Koro-sensei's pocket and demanded he buy him lunch. After finishing his shopping at a local market, Koro-sensei spots a group of men harassing a beautiful foreign woman. Using his incredible speed, he effortlessly dispatches them. Grateful, the woman introduces herself as Irina Jelavi and asks for directions to Kunugigaoka Junior High. Later, at Class E's mountain campus, Karasuma introduces her as their new English teacher. The class immediately notices Koro-sensei's infatuation with her, particularly because of her revealing attire. Irina appears to reciprocate his feelings, seemingly out of gratitude for his earlier help. Throughout the morning, Irina disrupts Koro-sensei's lessons with trivial requests, much to his chagrin. During lunch, she insists he order Vietnamese coffee, which momentarily transports him to Vietnam due to its rich aroma. However, once Koro-sensei steps out, Irina drops her facade. She reveals her confidence in her ability to kill him, but her condescending attitude alienates the students. Karma dubs her Ms. Jella Bitch, a nickname that sticks. To the class's astonishment, she kisses Nagi and demands to see his notes on Koro-sensei's weaknesses.
It should have been me, not him! It's not fair!
Meanwhile, she consults with her hired goons to devise a plan for the assassination. Irina's first lesson devolves into chaos. Instead of teaching English, she spends the entire time correcting the students' pronunciation of the letter V as they hurl insults at one another. Frustrated, they declare it the lamest lesson ever. Irina's credibility as a teacher further diminishes. The next day, Irina persuades Koro-sensei to meet her in a storage shed, claiming she needs a private moment. Unbeknownst to Koro-sensei, Karasuma and the students observe the interaction from a safe distance. Inside the shed, Irina stages a trap. Hiding behind a curtain, she cues her team to fire machine guns loaded with lead bullets. Confident in her success, she steps out only to find her men unconscious and Koro-sensei completely unharmed.
全部脱ぐから1分待ってて。
私に鉛の弾は効かないのです。
He explains that the bullets were ineffective, and he had detected the unfamiliar scent of her accomplice's body odor, tipping him off. Feigning interest in her advances, he had played along with her ruse. As punishment, Koro-sensei grooms her in an embarrassing spectacle, dressing her in a gym outfit and subjecting her to his tentacle treatment. The suggestive sounds are loud enough for the entire class to hear, leaving everyone curious and bewildered.
It's not fair!
Later, back in the classroom, Irina feels humiliated and vows revenge. The students ask her to teach them practical skills for their upcoming midterms, prompting her to lash out. She dismisses their concerns, scolding them for prioritizing exams over the mission to kill Koro-sensei, an entity capable of destroying the world. She also remarks that even if they succeed, their status as Class E students will continue to haunt their futures. Her insults provoke a riot, and the students openly rebel. Frustrated, Irina storms off, swearing vengeance. In the staff room, Irina complains to Karasuma that she is an assassin, not a babysitter for unruly kids. Karasuma takes her to observe Koro-sensei preparing personalized tests for each student, a task he completes with meticulous care and thoughtfulness. Watching the students' excitement over Koro-sensei's efforts, Irina begins to reconsider her approach. Returning to class, Irina attempts to redeem herself. She writes "You are incredible" in bed on the board, using it as an example of conversational English. She explains the importance of language in building relationships, not just for assassinations but for everyday life. The lesson, though unconventional, resonates with the students. Irina also apologizes for her earlier behavior, which elicits laughter from the class since she had just threatened to kill them. They playfully nickname her Bitch Sensei, a moniker she begrudgingly accepts despite her irritation. Outside the classroom, Koro-sensei observes Irina's integration into the class dynamic. He remarks that she might be a perfect fit for their assassination classroom. Karasuma suspects that this outcome was part of Koro-sensei's plan all along, further affirming his remarkable teaching abilities. Koro-sensei and two students were heading to chemistry class when, upon entering, the entire class launched an ambush on him. Despite their coordinated attack, Koro-sensei defended himself effortlessly, leaving the students exhausted. As the chaos subsided, Manami Okuda stepped forward. She admitted she wasn't as physically strong as the others but explained her proficiency in chemistry. She then presented Koro-sensei with poisons she had created, asking him to drink them. The class burst into laughter, doubting he would ever agree. To everyone's shock, Koro-sensei drank the poisons without hesitation. His face turned blue, then green, and finally silver as he consumed the concoctions, but he remained unharmed. He explained that while the poisons were effective on humans, they couldn't harm him. Instead, the substances altered his appearance temporarily. Koro-sensei commended Okuda for her skill in chemistry and encouraged her to refine her abilities, even offering to help her create a poison potent enough to harm him. Later, while the rest of the class lay tired from their earlier attempts, Karasuma and Irina observed them from a distance. Meanwhile, Koro-sensei worked with Okuda in the lab. She confided in him about her struggles with social interactions, explaining that science was her preferred way of communicating. Hearing this, Koro-sensei assigned her additional tasks to boost her confidence. The next day, Okuda brought a new poison, a pink liquid, to class. Koro-sensei humorously suggested she write manga while creating her poisons, which she had done as part of her work. When Koro-sensei drank the pink poison, his body emitted a red glow, causing the students to wonder if the poison had finally worked. However, Koro-sensei thanked Okuda and revealed that the substance transformed him into a silver jelly-like form, granting him a new ability. Okuda was upset, feeling deceived, but Koro-sensei reassured her of her talent. He emphasized that her scientific skills would one day be indispensable, inspiring her to keep improving. Watching this, Akabane and Nagi reflected on how Koro-sensei had a unique way of motivating everyone to work harder. Soon after, Class E was summoned to the main campus for a school assembly. The journey from their isolated location to the main site proved challenging, leaving them drained by the time they arrived. During the assembly, they endured ridicule from both teachers and students. Akabane, however, skipped the event and faced disciplinary action for his absence. Meanwhile, the school principal secretly expressed confidence in his strategy of isolating and ridiculing Classy to drive them to work harder, ensuring the system would function as intended. Other students grew envious of Classy, noticing that Karasuma and Irina were far cooler than their own teachers. Irina, always scheming, asked Nagi to reveal more of Koro-sensei's weaknesses. When Nagi replied that he'd already shared everything, Irina hugged him tightly, smothering him with her chest in a manipulative attempt to get more information. During the principal's speech, Koro-sensei disguised himself as a scholarly figure to infiltrate the assembly and show his support for his students. He distributed extra copies of handouts that Classy had previously been denied, a subtle act of defiance and encouragement. Afterward, Nagi demonstrated the skills he had learned in Classy by handling two bullies from the main campus, Nobuta Tanaka and Chasuke Takada, effectively turning the tables on them with his composure and quick thinking. Koro-sensei was administering a test to his students, ensuring no one could cheat. He reassured the class that he would personally help those struggling in any subject, promising to turn their weaknesses into strengths and make them the best in the class. During this time, the school principal, Gekuho Asano, paid a visit to Classy. Koro-sensei greeted him warmly, but Gekuho's demeanor was cold. The principal questioned whether Koro-sensei was truly the creature the government was after and dismissed Classy as useless. He set a challenge. If the students could place in the top 50 on the upcoming exams, they would receive equal resources and treatment as the rest of the school. However, if they failed, they would remain in their disadvantaged position. Gekuho added that he believed Koro-sensei could prepare the students to meet this goal, though his tone carried a sharp edge of skepticism. Nagi overheard their conversation and quietly listened as the principal issued his ultimatum. As Gekuho left, he noticed Nagi eavesdropping, but simply greeted him and walked away. Shortly after, Koro-sensei gathered all the students outside and shared Gekuho's challenge. He framed it as both a test of their academic abilities and their determination to succeed. He also raised the stakes further, declaring that if they failed to place in the top 50, he would leave the class and destroy the school. This announcement left the students motivated but under immense pressure. On the day of the midterm exams, the papers turned out to be far more challenging than expected. The tests weren't prepared by Koro-sensei but by another teacher, and to make matters worse, Gekuho had secretly added unexpected questions specifically designed to disadvantage Classy despite their preparation, and creative problem-solving techniques learned from Koro-sensei. The students struggled to overcome these deliberate obstacles. In the end, only Karma managed to rank in the top 50. Koro-sensei was visibly disappointed, blaming himself for underestimating Gekuho's cunning tactics. However, his students, instead of being disheartened, rallied around him. They reassured Koro-sensei, acknowledging how much they had grown thanks to his unique teaching methods. Buoyed by their encouragement, Koro-sensei resolved to double his efforts and ensure they excelled in the final exams. The shared determination between teacher and students solidified their bond, setting the stage for their next challenge. Classy was abuzz with excitement as they prepared for their upcoming field trip to Kyoto, which was also an opportunity to try assassinating Koro-sensei. Their teacher gathered everyone in the schoolyard, announcing, "As you all know, we're heading to Kyoto next week for a school trip. I don't want to dampen your spirits, but remember, you're still on the job. Kyoto is a much larger and more complicated city than this school. You'll be moving in groups, and I'll be following you, which makes it a perfect place for snipers. The government has arranged for sharpshooters to assist, and if they succeed, you'll receive a share of the 10 billion yen reward based on their contribution. Make sure to pick tour routes that minimize risks for bystanders." The students began forming groups, carefully considering who to include. Nagi, Kid, Karma, Sujino, Manami, and Yukiko Kanzaki, the class star, agreed to stick together. Koro-sensei handed out detailed guidebooks filled with trip tips, explaining, "This city has plenty of potential danger zones. If you find yourself in a bad position, use this guide to protect yourselves." On the day of the trip, Classy couldn't help but feel a pang of disappointment when they saw that students from Class A and Class D were riding in first class while they were relegated to coach. Mocking them, students from the other classes said, "This is how our school works. Better grades mean better perks." Despite this, Classy boarded the train and found their seats. As the train departed, the students noticed Koro-sensei wasn't with them. Moments later, he appeared outside their window, explaining, "I was buying snacks at the station and missed the train. I'll just follow along until the next stop." His casual response drew a mix of exasperation and amusement from his students. During the ride, a group of high school delinquents noticed Yukiko's schedule and stole it to learn the group's plans. Later, when Kid and Yukiko left their seats to get juice, the boys took the opportunity to swipe Yukiko's guidebook from her bag. Oblivious to the theft, the group continued their journey. Upon arriving in Kyoto, Koro-sensei felt sick but insisted on accompanying his students. The next day, the group began exploring famous sites, including places known for historical assassinations, following their carefully planned itinerary. However, they were ambushed by the delinquents, who kidnapped Kid and Yukiko. Held captive, Yukiko confided in Kid about her strict upbringing, which had sometimes driven her to rebel against the rules. Meanwhile, Nagi, Karma, Sujino, and Manami used Koro-sensei's guidebook, which included a section on handling hostage situations, to track down their classmates. The meticulous instructions helped them pinpoint the delinquents' hideout. When they arrived, Kid and Yukiko were overjoyed to see their friends. The leader of the delinquents, Ryuki, taunted them, saying, "Do you juniors really think you can take me on?" Before the confrontation could escalate, Koro-sensei appeared, ready to deal with the troublemakers. While Nagi and the others followed the guidebook strategies to knock out the delinquents, Koro-sensei easily defeated the remaining opponents and ensured all his students were safe. After the incident, Yukiko and Kid expressed their heartfelt gratitude to Koro-sensei for his guidance and protection. Ryuki hires Red Eye, a skilled assassin, to kill Koro-sensei, warning him that the target might not be human. Confident, Red Eye assures him, "Don't worry, he'll lose." Meanwhile, on the second day of their Kyoto trip, Koro-sensei and his students enjoy sightseeing around the city. As their train crosses a river, Red Eye hides among the trees, aiming his rifle at Koro-sensei. He fires, but Koro-sensei saves himself by using a soft Chewy Yatsuhashi dessert to stop the bullet mid-spin. The unexpected maneuver shocks Red Eye, who realizes the task may be more challenging than anticipated. Later, Koro-sensei takes his students to the Toei Uzumasa Film Park, where sword fights and warrior displays captivate them. Red Eye, still on his mission, follows them there and tries to line up another shot. However, Koro-sensei dodges his attacks effortlessly, weaving through the scene with his usual speed. Observing Koro-sensei's inhuman abilities, Red Eye recognizes the difficulty of defeating him and calls Ryuki to report his failure. "I didn't win today," he admits, "but I won't give up." At that moment, Koro-sensei approaches Red Eye. Calmly, he warns, "If you hurt even one of my students, you've crossed the line." Surprisingly, the two end up sharing dinner together. Red Eye, confused but intrigued, says, "If you want to kill me, go ahead." Koro-sensei replies, "No, I wouldn't ruin this fun school trip by killing you. I just wanted to thank you for your restraint." Touched by Koro-sensei's words, Red Eye decides to abandon his contract. He calls Ryuki to inform him that he will no longer pursue Koro-sensei. That evening, the students plot to spy on Koro-sensei while he bathes. However, when they open the bathroom door, he's nowhere to be found. Back in their rooms, the boys gather and chat about the girls in their class. The conversation turns to Karma, with the group teasingly asking him if he likes anyone. Karma may answer with a hint or deflect the question entirely, leaving the group curious. Meanwhile, Koro-sensei secretly listens in, prompting the boys to chase after him in frustration. Unsurprisingly, his speed makes him impossible to catch. On the other side, the girls also talk about the boys. Nakamura Ryo shares insights about Karma's personality, sparking curiosity. Just then, Irina Jelovi, aka Professor Bitch, joins them. The girls excitedly bombard her with questions about her adult life. Irina, who reveals she's only 20 years old, astonishes the group with her tales of experience. They marvel at her achievements at such a young age. As the girls listen intently, Koro-sensei bursts in with the boys trailing behind him. Irina becomes furious, demanding, "Why are you all here? This is the girls' space." Koro-sensei sheepishly explains, "I love hearing about love stories." However, when the students press him about his own relationships, he awkwardly excuses himself and goes to find Karasuma. Later, as the day winds down, Nagi and Kid stand by a window, reflecting on how quickly the trip has passed. "Tomorrow, we're back to school," Kid says, "and to our assassination classroom." The thought lingers, both grounding and exciting them, as the end of their field trip approaches. Classy returns from their Kyoto trip to find out that a new foreign exchange student is joining their class. Akajima's phone displays a picture of a girl, exciting everyone. But Nagi and Sujino are shocked and disappointed upon arrival. They discover the student is actually a computer. The AI introduces itself as the autonomously thinking fixed artillery as an exasperated Karasuma briefs the class. Since the AI is technically a student, Koro-sensei cannot harm it, despite its deadly nature. As class begins, Keanu and Nagi speculate on how the AI could attempt to kill Koro-sensei since it appears to lack weapons. Their question is answered when the AI unleashes a barrage of anti-sensei bullets. forcing the class to take cover. Koro-sensei manages to dodge the onslaught and reprimands the AI, reminding it that guns aren't allowed in class. However, the AI launches another wave, and to everyone's amazement, one of Koro-sensei's tentacle fingers is damaged. This reveals a vulnerability, shocking both Koro-sensei and the students. The AI calculates that while the chance of killing him is currently low, it could rise to 90% by graduation if it continues to adapt. Throughout the day, the AI disrupts class repeatedly with its relentless attacks, frustrating the students who are forced to clean up the mess. The next day, they take action. Terasaka tapes up the AI's guns, admitting it was his doing to stop the chaos. The rest of the class agrees with his reasoning, though the AI complains that this violates its agreement with Koro-sensei. That night, the AI contacts its masters but realizes its classmates' actions have significantly lowered its chances of killing Koro-sensei. Koro-sensei intervenes, helping the AI understand the students' perspective. It realizes that while its behavior hindered learning, it provided no benefit to the students. If it succeeded in killing Koro-sensei, the reward money would go to its creators, leaving the students with nothing. Seeing potential in the AI, Koro-sensei upgrades it to promote collaboration and harmony within the class. The AI, confused but intrigued, allows the changes, though it doesn't see how Koro-sensei's obsession with sweets could help. The next day, the AI, now named Ritsu by the class, acts remarkably differently. Koro-sensei introduces her upgraded personality, asking the students to treat her as a friend while maintaining her mission to kill him. The students are initially wary but quickly warm up to her when she begins helping with assignments, answering random questions, and chatting about manga and flowers. Koro-sensei, jealous of the attention Ritsu receives, tries unsuccessfully to reclaim the spotlight. Despite his efforts, the class embraces Ritsu's cheerful and helpful nature. However, Terasaka and Karma caution that because Ritsu is a machine, her independence is limited by her creator's control. That night, Ritsu's masters arrive and are shocked by the drastic changes in her behavior. They reset her to factory settings, erasing the personality enhancements Koro-sensei had added. The next day, Karasuma informs the class of the updates. Any unapproved changes to Ritsu will be treated as a breach of the agreement and punished by her creators. As the students brace themselves for Ritsu's usual onslaught of attacks, she surprises them by generating bouquets of flowers instead. She explains that she secretly saved her upgraded personality on an unaltered drive before being reset, effectively rebelling against her masters. When Ritsu asks Koro-sensei if her newfound independence could be a phase, he smiles and says it's simply part of being a middle schooler. With her autonomy intact, Ritsu becomes an ally to Class E in their mission to kill Koro-sensei, albeit in her own unique way. Meanwhile, Irina approaches Karasuma with a face drawn on her chest, proclaiming that a girl's popularity can increase with a creative touch. Karasuma, utterly bewildered, can only respond, "I have no words." Class E now has a new ally and another layer of chaos in their unusual classroom. Irina teaches Class E English by focusing on how first impressions and small talk are crucial in the art of assassination. She stresses the importance of putting oneself in the target's shoes. When Kimura tries an example, he fails miserably, prompting Irina to scold him for making the conversation stiff and unnatural. She emphasizes the need for smooth, effortless communication to build rapport. Exhausted after the lesson, Irina complains to Karasuma in the staff room, lamenting that she should be assassinating targets, not teaching teenagers, and grumbling about Koro-sensei ogling her chest. As Irina leaves the staff room, she's ambushed and strung up by Lovro, her mentor and boss. Karasuma steps out to address Lovro, acknowledging his reputation. Once Irina is freed, Lovro admits he orchestrated her placement at Class E and criticizes her for getting too close to the students, a behavior unbefitting a professional assassin. Pleading for a second chance, Irina finds relief when Koro-sensei arrives, diffusing the tension with humor. Koro-sensei proposes a test, a mock assassination of Karasuma using anti-sensei knives. Whoever lands the first hit wins, and Irina must prove herself to Lovro to stay. Both Lovro and Karasuma agree. That evening, Irina attempts to drug Karasuma by offering him a drink. But Karasuma easily sees through the ploy, dismissing it as an old and transparent tactic. Her feigned injury after tripping also fails to convince anyone. Observing from the shadows, Lovro watches with disapproval. Later, Karasuma questions Koro-sensei about what would happen if no one could stab him. Koro-sensei casually replies that if Karasuma wins, he'll freeze for a second, giving Karasuma a chance to attack him seriously. Lovro makes his own move later that evening, attempting to attack Karasuma directly. However, his retirement has dulled his skills, and Karasuma easily disarms him. Karasuma advises Irina to take the challenge seriously if she truly wants to win and leaves, remarking that he can hit a target 5 times in a second, much to Koro-sensei's concern. The next day, during lunch, Irina approaches Karasuma under a tree, determined to finish the challenge. With the class, Koro-sensei, and Lovero watching, she uses hidden wires to bind Karasuma to the tree and lunges at him with a knife. Karasuma blocks her attack effortlessly, overpowering her. Irina pleads with him, giving him an exaggerated look of desperation. But Karasuma angrily points out that no one would willingly allow themselves to be killed.
やりたいの。
やらせろとすがりつく暗殺者がいるか。
Sighing, he decides to let Irina win, ending the charade. Lovero, impressed by Irina's perseverance and her dedication to teaching the class assassination techniques, decides to let her stay. Before leaving, he and Irina cross paths and he acknowledges her efforts. Back in the staff room, Karasuma questions why a suit of armor is stored there. Koro-sensei cheekily explains it was meant to provide Karasuma with some basic protection in case he won. After class, Koro-sensei announces his plan to fly to Hawaii to watch a superhero movie. Nagi and Karma eagerly ask to join, and Ritsu, having installed a mini version of herself on their phones, also requests to come. Koro-sensei agrees, making space in his clothes for the two boys. They travel across the Pacific at Mach 20, marveling at the view and experiencing their teacher's perspective mid-flight. During the journey, Koro-sensei gives a casual lecture. By nightfall, they arrive in Hawaii and watch the movie, though Koro-sensei appears more fascinated by the actress's chest movements than the plot itself. Upon returning to the classy building, everyone says their goodbyes. Unbeknownst to them, two mysterious figures observe from the shadows. One declares his intent to kill not only Koro-sensei but also his brother, vowing vengeance for the damage inflicted upon the moon. Karasuma receives an email from the Ministry of Defense early in the day. It informs him that a second transfer student, along with their guardian, will arrive later. He informs Koro-sensei, who then updates Classy about the new arrival. Curious about this new addition, Sumayohara asks Ritsu, the AI, if it knows anything. Ritsu explains that initially 2 AIs were planned, one for long-range attacks and the other for close combat. However, the plan was scrapped, and the second one took longer to perfect before deployment. Additionally, the two cannot collaborate effectively because one is far stronger than the other. Ritsu's earlier accuracy in targeting Koro-sensei's finger increases the class's curiosity, and even Koro-sensei admits he underestimated the AI. Shortly afterward, a man in all white enters the classroom, introducing himself as Shiro, the new student's guardian. As he calls for the student, the back wall explodes and a boy enters, soaked from the rain outside. Sitting between Terasaka and Karma, he boasts about his strength, angering the class. Shiro introduces him as Itona Horaibe. Koro-sensei, unable to decipher Itona's demeanor, is perplexed. Observing Itona's dry appearance despite the rain, Karma notes something odd. Itona declares that only weaker individuals live while stronger ones fight, directly challenging Koro-sensei to a duel. He claims they are brothers, shocking the class. After Itona and Shiro leave, the class bombards Koro-sensei with questions. However, Koro-sensei insists he was raised by human parents and denies the connection. Still, the class notices shared traits, though they question whether Koro-sensei, as a non-human, could have a brother. In the staff room, Shiro informs Irina and Karasuma of Itona's alleged familial connection to Koro-sensei, claiming the upcoming duel will validate it. The class also speculates about similarities between Itona and Koro-sensei. By the end of the school day, the classroom is transformed into a battleground for the fight. Karasuma remarks he's never seen an assassination attempt staged like this, while Irina compares it to an arena. The rules are clear, stepping out of bounds means losing. Some students doubt the rules will be honored, but Karma insists Koro-sensei will follow them to uphold his image. Koro-sensei adds his own rule: any harm to students results in immediate disqualification. The fight begins with Shiro's signal. Itona quickly cuts off one of Koro-sensei's tentacles, stunning the class. However, they are even more surprised by Itona's hair, which moves like Koro-sensei's tentacles. Enraged, Koro-sensei demands to know where Itona obtained such abilities, but Shiro refuses to answer, reiterating their supposed brotherhood. Itona takes the offensive, exploiting Koro-sensei's weaknesses, losing skin, slower reactions after regrowing tentacles, and a short temper when seeing Itona's tentacles. Shiro's hidden beam also hinders Koro-sensei, slowing his reflexes. Despite this, Koro-sensei dodges their combined attacks, admitting he underestimated Shiro's strategy. Nagi observes the fight in awe but regrets that the class didn't uncover these vulnerabilities themselves. He contemplates using his anti-sensei knife, silently affirming their mission to kill Koro-sensei. Meanwhile, Koro-sensei reveals a flaw in Shiro's strategy: overconfidence. Shiro dismisses this, urging Itona to deliver a decisive blow. Itona's tentacles strike, but instead of landing a fatal hit, they are damaged. Koro-sensei had secretly placed anti-sensei knives on the floor, making it appear he was vulnerable. Temporarily disarmed, Aitona is subdued when Koro-sensei uses his shed skin to wrap and toss him out of the classroom, ending the duel. Koro-sensei invites Aitona to join Class E, suggesting he could learn teamwork and personal growth rather than obsessing over strength. Enraged by the suggestion, Aitona refuses, but before the situation escalates, Shiro incapacitates him using a wrist device. Shiro then takes the unconscious Aitona, ignoring Koro-sensei's protests, and questions about the tentacle's origins. Koro-sensei's attempt to stop them fails as Shiro's robe, made of anti-sensei material, neutralizes his efforts. Shiro departs with Aitona, leaving Koro-sensei frustrated and deeply unsettled. Back in class, the students notice Koro-sensei's somber demeanor. He apologizes for showing his serious side instead of his usual playful persona. He avoids questions about his reaction to Aitona's tentacles, dodging Megukataoka's inquiry about his emotional response. Koro-sensei fears revealing his non-human origins and maintains his composure. Surprisingly, the class doesn't press the issue, as most already suspect the truth. Nagi persistently asks Koro-sensei about his past, particularly how he became the way he is and why he teaches Class E. Koro-sensei, growing serious, tells them they must earn those answers by continuing their assassination attempts. With that, he leaves the classroom, leaving the students to ponder his cryptic words. Afterward, the students approach Karasuma, expressing their renewed determination to learn assassination techniques. They confess that although they had hoped someone else would kill Koro-sensei, they now realize the importance of doing it themselves to reclaim their dignity and avoid being treated as outcasts. Moved by their resolve, Karasuma agrees to train anyone interested after class. Meanwhile, Koro-sensei quietly observes from a tree, reading a book and eating snacks. As Nagi and Karma walked home from school, they chatted about fun activities. Nearby, Sujino passed by the baseball club's practice, where Shindo, the team captain, was leading the training. Having been on the team before being moved to Class E, Sujino got along well with his former teammates. However, Shindo's philosophy that only the elite would succeed in life caught Karma's attention. When a school-wide ball game was announced, Class E's boys decided to challenge the baseball club in a practice game. Despite the odds, Sujino expressed his determination to win. Inspired by their resolve, Koro-sensei offered to guide and train them intensively. Koro-sensei devised a strategy for Class E to rely on bunting, exploiting Shindo's impressive fastball to surprise the club. The game began well, with Class E's bunting tactic catching Shindo, his team, and their coach off guard. This clever strategy allowed them to score 3 runs early in the game. However, before the club's turn to bat, Chairman Asano intervened, intimidating the club's coach into stepping aside. He took over, declaring that he would teach Class E a lesson. Meanwhile, the girls of Class E, who had just finished their game, hoped the boys were faring better. Sujino managed to prevent the baseball club from scoring in the first inning. But the chairman's ruthless philosophy that success requires stepping on others transformed the club players' attitudes. Their newfound aggression rendered Class E's bunting strategy ineffective, as the club adjusted their defensive positioning to counter it. With the umpire clearly favoring the club, the situation seemed unfair. Shindo struck out 3 of Class E's batters in succession, leaving Koro-sensei struggling to find a new plan. Sujino, however, continued to prevent the club from scoring. As the second inning began, Karma stepped up to bat. Following Koro-sensei's advice, he taunted the chairman about the club's overcrowded defensive positions and the umpire's bias, even calling the crowd clueless for not noticing. Though Koro-sensei believed this tactic had worked, Karma felt otherwise. Nevertheless, Class E managed to score 2 more runs, while the club failed to score again. Karasuma observed the clash between Koro-sensei and the chairman, noting how similar they were in their leadership but vastly different in their teaching methods. By the final inning, Class E could not score additional runs. When it was the baseball club's turn to bat, the chairman commanded Hashimoto to counter Class E's earlier bunting tactic. The club executed the strategy successfully, catching Sujino, Nagi, and Koro-sensei off guard. The chairman defended the club's actions, arguing that it was fair to copy Class E since they had done it first. As a result, the bases were quickly loaded. Shindo, inspired by the chairman's words and determined to defeat Sujino, was the final batter. Class E scrambled for a way to counter this shift. Koro-sensei called Karma aside and gave him a new strategy. Karma relayed the plan to the class, and when the game resumed, everyone was shocked to see Karma and Yuma positioned unusually close to Sujino. Karma explained that when the club crowded the field earlier, it had disrupted the batter's focus without any penalties from the umpire. Thus, Class E could do the same. Although the chairman allowed this tactic, he remained confident in the club's victory. Karma and Yuma positioned themselves directly in Shindo's line of sight, distracting him with taunts and making him hesitate. Unwilling to risk injuring them with his swing, Shindo failed to connect with Sujino's pitches. The club lost, and Class E emerged victorious. The crowd reacted with disbelief, struggling to accept that a skilled team had been defeated by Class E. Nagi noted that they were unaware of the strategic battle between Koro-sensei and the chairman that influenced the outcome. Koro-sensei acknowledged this victory but warned that the upcoming final exams would be the true test. In the aftermath, Sujino and Shindo reconciled, rebuilding their friendship despite the intense competition. After 3 months of assassination training, Karasuma observes noticeable improvements in everyone's knife skills. He particularly notes the impressive reflexes of Yuma and Mihara, especially when they work together. Karma also stands out, not only for his quick learning but also for his secretive and mischievous nature. Similarly, Akano and Kataoka's athletic unpredictability grabs his attention. However, when Karasuma suddenly feels a threatening presence behind him and blocks an attack, he discovers it's Nagi.
すまんちょっと強く防ぎすぎた
Despite Naga's unassuming demeanor, Karasuma senses something unnervingly dangerous about him, a feeling that even Koro-sensei seems to share. After training concludes, Kurahashi invites Karasuma to join the students for some fun, but he declines. On his way out, he runs into an old acquaintance, Akira, and introduces him to the class. Akira announces that he will take over the physical education lessons the next day while Karasuma handles other responsibilities. The following morning, Akira wins over the class with his humorous demeanor and a large bag of candy, instantly gaining their favor. However, when Karasuma discusses Akira with Koro-sensei and Irina, he reveals they were once colleagues in the Ministry of Defense's elite division, responsible for training new recruits. As Karasuma reviews old photos of Akira with trainees, he notices something disturbing. One photo shows recruits with bruises on their backs and tied hands. This alarming revelation causes Karasuma to grow wary of Akira's methods. Outside, Akira outlines a grueling new training schedule for the class, running from noon to 9 p.m. every weekday. Mihara objects to the harsh regime, prompting Akira to knee him in the chest. Akira then declares himself a father figure to the students, demanding their complete obedience. The class is taken aback by his overbearing approach, but Kanzaki's defiance stands out. When she calmly states that she prefers Karasuma's lessons, Akira slaps her hard enough to knock her to the ground. This violent act shocks the students and enrages both Karasuma and Koro-sensei. However, Akira asserts his authority, leaving them unable to intervene. As the class begins a physically demanding session of 300 squats, Akira overhears Kurahashi mentioning Karasuma. Enraged, he attempts to hit her, claiming Karasuma is no longer their teacher. Karasuma blocks the attack, which leads Akira to propose a challenge. Karasuma must select a student to face Akira in a knife fight. The student will use a real knife while Akira remains unarmed. If the student can defeat him without making contact, Akira will leave. However, if the student fails, Akira's authority will remain unquestioned. Akira views this as an opportunity to assert dominance, believing that fear of using a real knife will paralyze any opponent. Karasuma hesitates but ultimately chooses Nagi, recalling the ominous presence he sensed during training. He coaches Nagi on how to approach the fight, though Irina and Akira express doubts about the choice. Koro-sensei, however, trusts Karasuma's judgment and reassures Irina. Nagi accepts the challenge, driven both by his trust in Karasuma and his desire to retaliate for Kanzaki and Mihara. As the fight begins, Akira is confident in his victory, assuming that Nagi will hesitate to strike with a real blade. But Nagi views the situation differently. With a calm smile, he approaches Akira casually as if walking to school. Stopping just short of Akira's extended left arm, he suddenly moves behind him and goes straight for the neck. Startled by the swiftness and precision of Nagi's movements, Akira instinctively steps back but cannot recover in time. Nagi seizes the opportunity, grabs Akira by the shirt, pins him to the ground, and presses the knife to his throat.
殺せば勝ちなんだ。だから僕は笑って普通に歩いて近づいた。ここで初めて高岡先生自分が殺されかけていることに確実に。
The class is stunned by Nagi's skill, as is Karasuma, who realizes Nagi has a natural talent for assassination. This leaves him wondering whether to help Nagi hone his abilities or discourage him from pursuing such a path. In a shy voice, Nagi asks if he should have used the knife's blunt side instead. Koro-sensei ends the fight, though he warns Karasuma about the risks of using a real knife. Karasuma silently acknowledges that Koro-sensei could have intervened to prevent harm if necessary. Naga's classmates celebrate his victory, with Mihara playfully slapping him to ensure it's really him before congratulating him. While the rest of the class cheers, Akira, humiliated and furious, demands a rematch. Nagi calmly declines, stating that while they appreciate Akira's effort, the class prefers Karasuma's expertise and Koro-sensei's supportive teaching methods over Akira's brutality. Enraged, Akira attempts to punch Nagi, but Karasuma blocks the blow again. Karasuma informs the class that he will report Akira's behavior to the Ministry of Defense, but before he can act, Chairman Asano steps in. Having observed the events from the shadows, Asano rebukes Akira for his violent tactics and reliance on fear. He hands Akira a letter of dismissal, asserting his authority as the school's head. Akira, seething with anger, quickly gathers his belongings and leaves. With Akira gone, Karasuma officially resumes his role as the class's PE teacher. Overjoyed, the students demand a reward for helping him reclaim his position. Reluctantly, Karasuma reaches for his wallet, only to discover that Arena, now part of the group, has already taken it. As the class enjoys their victory, Koro-sensei eagerly asks to join in on the treats. The students jokingly scold him for standing idly by during the confrontation. Reflecting on the day's events, Karasuma admits he has grown attached to the class. Their resilience and unity have impressed him, solidifying his commitment to their growth. As the day winds down, Koro-sensei begs the students to accompany him on a trip to buy sweets, even going so far as to crawl on his tentacles. The day after the incident with Akira, Koro-sensei leads Class E through the woods on a sweltering day. Clad in swimsuits, the students wonder why they're trekking through the bush instead of heading to the pool on the main campus. Koro-sensei soon reveals a surprise: he has built them their own pool in the woods. Delighted, the class dives in, enjoying the refreshing water. However, their mood dampens when Koro-sensei becomes overly strict with his rules. The fun takes a turn when Kurahashi playfully splashes Koro-sensei with water, causing him to shriek and draw everyone's attention. Karma, always mischievous, rocks Koro-sensei's chair, nearly toppling him into the pool. This prompts the class to realize that their seemingly invincible teacher has a surprising weakness: he can't swim. While most of the class laughs it off, Terasaka remains on the sidelines, feeling increasingly isolated. He grows resentful, believing the class is becoming too friendly with Koro-sensei, forgetting their mission to kill him. Terasaka's two closest friends, Muramatsu and Yashida, seem to be warming up to Koro-sensei as well. Muramatsu's grades have improved thanks to Koro-sensei's study sessions, while Yashida bonds with their teacher over a shared love of motorcycles. Terasaka, frustrated, breaks a wooden motorcycle model that Koro-sensei had made for Yashida, leaving the teacher in tears. He then lights a smoke can inside the building, angering the rest of the class. When confronted, Terasaka accuses them of losing sight of their goal, but Karma shuts him down, daring him to kill Koro-sensei if he dislikes him so much. Their exchange escalates until Karma silences Terasaka with a veiled threat, leaving him to storm off. Terasaka reflects on his past while pouring a chemical mixture into the newly built pool. He recalls how he once used his size to intimidate others, but at Kunugigaoka Junior High, his bullying tactics didn't work, as students were more focused on grades. He didn't mind being in Class E, but Koro-sensei's arrival gave the class a purpose: assassination. His thoughts are interrupted by Shiro and Itona, who approach him with a plan. Shiro hands Terasaka money, claiming to share his frustrations, while Itona mocks him, calling him weak compared to someone like Karma. The next day, Koro-sensei appears teary-eyed, prompting Arena to scold him for being over-emotional. However, Koro-sensei explains it's just mucus from his sinuses. Terasaka arrives and boldly announces that today is the day he will kill Koro-sensei. He orders the class to the pool, despite their hesitation to help him. Nagi catches up to Terasaka and suggests collaborating with the class to improve the plan's success. Terasaka refuses, dismissing the idea as weak. Nagi notices that Terasaka's words seem borrowed from someone else. Terasaka's plan involves having Itona push Koro-sensei into the pool while the class attacks. Shiro had also given him a gun to signal the ambush. However, when Terasaka fires the weapon, it triggers an explosion that breaches the pool's dam. A sudden rush of water sweeps the class toward a cliff, putting them in mortal danger. Terrified, Terasaka freezes, unaware that Shiro and Itona had intended for this outcome to weaken Koro-sensei. The combination of water and smoke from the previous day diminishes Koro-sensei's speed and tentacle strength, making it harder for him to save the students and fend off Itona. Karma, hearing the class's screams, arrives to find Terasaka in shock. Realizing Terasaka was manipulated, Karma punches him to snap him out of his stupor, urging him to take responsibility. Karma rushes ahead to help, while Koro-sensei works tirelessly to rescue the students. Just as the last student is saved, Itona attacks Koro-sensei, initiating a fierce battle. However, Koro-sensei appears unusually restrained, holding back as he fights. Terasaka soon returns with vital information. The chemical in the water isn't the only issue. Sumair Hara is hanging precariously from a tree branch that could snap at any moment. Terasaka, showing newfound determination, helps devise a plan. Karma instructs him to join the fight and act as a decoy. Terasaka bravely intercepts one of Itona's tentacle attacks, taking a direct hit to the chest. Shiro is stunned that Terasaka withstands the blow, but just as Itona moves to strike again, he sneezes, giving Terasaka a brief reprieve. Karma reveals that Terasaka's shirt still carries residue from the smoke can, which weakens Itona. Terasaka rallies the rest of the class, directing Muramatsu and Yoshida to splash water on Itona. The combined effort drenches Itona, further diminishing his strength. Amid the chaos, Koro-sensei successfully rescues Hara. Defeated, Shiro abandons the plan and retreats with Itona, ignoring Koro-sensei's invitation for Itona to join the class permanently. The class celebrates their victory, though Hara chastises Terasaka for teasing her about her weight earlier. When Karma stirs the pot with another comment, the class unites to drag him into the water, much to his annoyance. Despite his earlier actions, Terasaka earns the class's acceptance as another friend. Nagi reflects on the day, noting that while they uncovered Koro-sensei's inability to swim, none of them yet realized the deeper weaknesses he harbored, ones far more significant than his fear of water. With the final exams approaching, Koro-sensei is fully focused on preparing Class E after the midterms, where the basics were covered. Koro-sensei raises the stakes by offering an enticing incentive. Anyone who scores the highest in a subject gets to shoot off one of his limbs. The class is motivated, knowing that each limb they disable slows Koro-sensei down by 10%, as proven during Shiro's earlier attacks. This prize aligns with their ultimate goal of assassinating him. Meanwhile, Shindo calls Sujino and informs him that to regain their place on the main campus, and potentially make killing Koro-sensei easier, Class E must outperform Class A's elite group, the 5 virtuosos, led by the charismatic Gakush Asano, the chairman's son. On the other side, Chairman Asano assures Karasuma and Irina that he won't resort to underhanded tactics this time. Gakush, curious about Class E's unconventional teacher, begins plotting. He sees the potential to use any secrets he uncovers about Koro-sensei as leverage against his father. Yuma invites Nagi, Kibe Keano, Ryo Nakamura, Yukiko Kanzaki, and Manami Okuda to study in the main campus library. While there, they encounter the 5 virtuosos. Though Gakush is absent, the remaining virtuosos waste no time trying to intimidate Class E. They flirt with Kanzaki and confront Okuda, but their mocking tone shifts when they notice the group's academic strengths. Kanzaki excels in Japanese, Nakamura in English, Yuma in social studies, and Okuda in science. Recognizing their potential, the virtuosos propose a bet. The losers must follow any command from the winners. The tension escalates when the virtuosos boast about risking their lives for victory. In response, Nagi, Kanzaki, and Nakamura turn their pencils into makeshift weapons.
命は簡単にかけない方がいいと思うよ。
Pointing the sharp ends at their antagonists' necks and eyes, while Yuma cleverly mimics the action with his finger. The virtuosos, rattled, retreat but warn that the deal is on. As they leave, Nagi reminds them not to speak so lightly about risking their lives. When the virtuosos report back to Gakush, he sees the bet as an excellent way to motivate Class A while advancing his plans. He drafts an official contract between Classes A and E, stipulating that the winners can issue one command to the losers, with 50 additional conditions. A hidden clause requires Class E to answer any question truthfully if they lose, giving Gakush a potential opening to learn about Koro-sensei. However, Japanese law protects Class E from being bound to the contract's terms, allowing them to sign without consequence. Gakush hopes to exploit any insights into Koro-sensei to manipulate his father. The bet becomes the talk of the school, spurring both classes to intense study sessions. Most students, including the diligent Nagi, Kanzaki, and Nakamura, dedicate themselves to preparing. Only Karma remains indifferent, brushing off Koro-sensei's advice and relying on his natural intelligence to pass the exams. On the eve of the tests, Chairman Asano oversees the test writing process, ensuring the questions are so challenging that even Class A will struggle. His aim is to push his son's class while reinforcing his belief in their superiority. The next morning, Nakamura and Nagi arrive early for the English test. As they settle into the exam room, they notice an unfamiliar substitute for Ritsu, their AI classmate. Karasuma explains that Ritsu's participation required the principal's approval, which was denied, forcing them to find an alternative. Despite this setback, Karasuma offers the class encouragement as they prepare to take on the rest of the school in the high-stakes final exams. The end-of-term exams for the entire 3rd grade span 2 full days. Despite having spent a year studying English abroad, Seo struggles to answer one of the questions in English. Nakamura and Nagi, however, quickly solve it thanks to their familiarity with J.D. Salinger's The Catcher in the Rye. Koro-sensei advises reading Salinger's work in both English and Japanese for a deeper understanding. In science, Natsuhiko Koyama's exceptional memory ironically hinders his ability to solve a complex formula, but Okuda succeeds, discovering the power of language in science. Yuma surpasses Teppei Araki in history, a result of Koro-sensei taking him on a nighttime trip to Africa to teach him about the continent's evolution. In Japanese literature, Kanzaki and Ren appear evenly matched, while Karma and Asano prepare for a fierce rivalry in math. After the tests conclude, Koro-sensei shares the results with the class. Asano remains the top student, and Class A secures the top 6 rankings. From Class E, Kadaoka and Takebayashi tie for 7th, earning the highest scores in their class. Meanwhile, Karma drops from 4th place in the midterms to 13th due to overconfidence and a lack of preparation. Koro-sensei mocks his laziness, leaving Karma feeling humiliated and storming out of class. Karasuma reflects on whether his methods with Karma are effective, while Koro-sensei believes the setback is necessary for Karma's personal growth, teaching him the value of failure. Asano's father expresses disappointment that Asano lost a bet to Class E despite being the best student of the year. However, Class E takes pride in their victory, securing 3 spots among the top ranks. Koro-sensei prepares to honor their bet by allowing the class to sever 3 of his tentacles. Secretly, though, he is relieved they didn't win enough to demand 6, which would severely weaken him. Before this can happen, Terasaka, Heizama, Yoshida, and Muramatsu step in, announcing they tied for first place in home economics. Terasaka argues that the rules didn't specify which subject had to count for the top rankings, giving each of them the right to sever a tentacle. Though furious, Koro-sensei dismisses home economics as less significant. Karma, nudged by Chiba, challenges Koro-sensei's dismissive attitude, sparking the class to exploit this loophole. In the end, Koro-sensei reluctantly agrees to lose 7 tentacles instead of 3. Yuma suggests postponing the assassination attempt, as the class has decided to use their winnings from the bet with Class A to fund a future attempt. At the school's end-of-term event, Class E faces off against Asano and the 5 virtuosos as part of their prize. Irina and Koro-sensei later discuss his unexpected loss of 7 tentacles. Koro-sensei reflects on the value of home economics, acknowledging that its independent tests push the students to excel. Karma makes a rare appearance at the assembly after skipping previous ones. When the dean mocks Class E, his insults fail to bolster the morale of the other classes. Class E's recent achievements allow them to hold their heads high. The dean remarks that while this shift is notable, the rest of the students will be more motivated than ever to avoid falling behind Class E. He plans for the school to return to its usual hierarchy after the summer break. Meanwhile, Class A resents the cockiness of the 5 virtuosos, who lost an easy bet. Asano, too, vows to seek revenge against Class E. Their prize for the term's success is revealed to be a private resort on a small island in Okinawa, the perfect location for a grand assassination attempt on Koro-sensei. With the first term over, Koro-sensei expresses pride in the progress his students have made. Over the past 3 months, they've mastered the basics of assassination and valuable life skills. During summer break, Nagi and Sujino head to the school grounds to search for stag beetles in the woods. Mihara joins them, hoping to make money to impress girls. Kurahashi also tags along, pointing out that many bugs they find might be artificial and not worth much. However, she is determined to locate a rare bug that could be extremely valuable. Using smell traps set the night before, the group captures a variety of beetles. Sujino even considers turning the venture into a side job due to the surprising profits. Their search takes an unexpected turn when they hear a voice and see Akajima approaching. He reveals that he's aiming for a 10 million yen reward, having spent a month studying Koro-sensei's behavior around adult magazines. With the assassination plan for the island trip and Koro-sensei potentially lowering his guard, Akajima believes this is the perfect time to strike. As they turn their attention to their teacher, they are stunned to see Koro-sensei dressed as a giant stag beetle, sitting on a pile of adult magazines. Akajima explains his plan. The stack of magazines conceals a pit filled with anti-sensei BBs, rigged to detonate when triggered. Before he can spring the trap, Koro-sensei's expression shifts, and his lightning-fast tentacle snatches a stag beetle with unusual white eyes from a tree. Kurahashi excitedly emerges from hiding, ruining Akajima's plan, and asks if the beetle is the rare specimen she's been seeking. Koro-sensei confirms it is, and they both celebrate, jumping with joy atop the magazine pile. Mihara quips about the absurdity of a happy high school girl and an octopus celebrating on adult magazines. Koro-sensei is embarrassed when he realizes the boys saw him engaging with adult material, even if it was part of a setup. Later, he and Kurahashi explain the beetle's value. Its white eyes mark it as an albino, making it extremely rare and worth hundreds of thousands of yen. Stunned by this revelation, the group collectively offers to sell the beetle. Chasing Kurahashi through the woods, they playfully argue over the find. 1 week before the class trip to Okinawa, the students return to school for more assassination training. With Koro-sensei recovering at Mount Everest, Karasuma recruits Lovero, an expert assassin, to guide the class. He also asks Irina to assist and dress appropriately for the lessons. As Lovero evaluates the students, he shares concerns about losing contact with 3 potential assassins. Reviewing the class's assassination plan, Lovero is intrigued by their first step, a psychological attack. Nagi explains they intend to exploit Koro-sensei's stag beetle costume and involvement with adult magazines to weaken his resolve before launching the actual attack. Lovero admires the plan for its ingenuity and cruelty. Assessing individual skills, Lovero is particularly impressed by Rinka Hayami and Chiba, noting Hayami's exceptional marksmanship and Chiba's prowess in close combat. He remarks he would have liked to train them personally. Later, Nagi approaches Lovero, asking who the world's best assassin is. Lovero, sensing Nagi's potential, probes whether he's interested in the assassination profession. Nagi politely declines, and Lovero reveals that the best assassin is known as the Shinigami. He warns that if they face an unkillable target, they may eventually encounter this legendary figure. Lovero begins teaching Nagi a surefire assassination technique, though their conversation fades as the camera shifts upward, obscuring their words. A week later, the class arrives at a lodge on the island of Okinawa. As preparations begin, some students accept drinks from the hotel staff. Half the class distracts Koro-sensei while the others scout the island and finalize plans for the nighttime assassination attempt. Irina is disappointed that no one is around to witness her swimsuit debut. Karasuma, in a teasing mood, reminds her that the lodge is reserved entirely for Class E and tosses her into the water to cool her antics. He then asks if she thinks the student's plan has any risks. Irina acknowledges the possibility of failure but assures him she's prepared to act at the right moment. By the end of the day, Koro-sensei's skin is severely sunburned, making his facial expressions difficult to read. Later, during dinner aboard a boat, the students discuss his sunburn. Their teacher unexpectedly sheds his burned skin, a process that weakens him because he forgets he only sheds once a month. This vulnerability gives the students hope for their attack. After dinner, the class lures Koro-sensei to a small theater hut surrounded by water, declaring it's time to kill him. Strangely, Koro-sensei appears to eagerly anticipate the attempt. During dinner, Yuma draws Koro-sensei's attention to Mamura's short film. Observing his surroundings, Koro-sensei quickly senses something is off. He suspects the students have modified the water and hut to trap him. As the movie begins, Koro-sensei notices that Chiba and Hayami, the class's top shooters, are absent. Detecting their sense, he deduces they're stationed on a hill for sniping. The film embarrasses Koro-sensei by showcasing moments like his stag beetle costume, failed bribery attempts, and absurd behaviors such as attending women's meetings and eating fried tissues. Learning there's still an hour left of this humiliation, Koro-sensei grows increasingly shocked and weary. By the end, he slumps in defeat, exposed and exhausted by the barrage of revelations. The film ends with the question, has he noticed anything unusual? At that moment, he feels water rising beneath his tentacle feet and realizes high tide is flooding the hut. Suddenly, Nakamura, Akano, Yuma, and Terasaka's group storm in, aiming guns at Koro-sensei's tentacles. Using the tide to slow him, they manage to shoot off 7 tentacles. Ritsu initiates a countdown while Karma, Hara, Keano, and Takebayashi use speedboats to dismantle the hut. Other students, equipped with water jet packs, emerge to form a hydraulic cage, trapping Koro-sensei. Chiba and Hayami, who are never on the island, appear from underwater, having used decoys with their sense to deceive Koro-sensei. Ritsu declares the operation over as Chiba and Hayami fire precise shots at Koro-sensei. Koro-sensei, observing the students' attacks in slow motion, marvels at their growth. A massive explosion follows, sending everyone into the water. However, Koro-sensei is nowhere to be found. Karasuma, watching from the beach, orders Yuma and Kadaka to search the area. Sujino and Keano notice air bubbles forming into a small, floating orb displaying Koro-sensei's face. Shocked, the class learns this is his ultimate defense form, a crystal sphere impervious even to bombs. However, it renders him immobile and lasts only a day. Terasaka tries to break the sphere with a wrench, but it's futile. Karma mocks Koro-sensei with embarrassing photos of his stag beetle and sea slug disguises, but the teacher remains untouchable. The students consider burying Koro-sensei in anti-sensei material, but he warns this would cause another explosion when he reverts to normal. Koro-sensei praises the students for executing a plan that could outwit global armies, though their failure to kill him leaves them despondent. They return to the lodge exhausted, especially Chiba and Hayami, who lament their missed shots despite extensive practice. Reviewing the event, Chiba asks Ritsu if the AI recorded their actions. Analysis reveals that with a slightly earlier shot or better aim, they'd have had a 50% chance of success. As As the class regroups, Nagi notices fatigue spreading among the students. Suddenly, Nakamura collapses with a fever and Okajima suffers a severe nosebleed. One by one, half the class succumbs to similar symptoms. In the midst of panic, Karasuma receives a call from an unknown number. The caller claims responsibility for the student's illness caused by a deadly engineered virus. Without treatment, they will die within a week. The only antidote is in the caller's possession, and no hospital on the island can help. The caller demands that Nagi and Keano deliver Koro-sensei to a hotel atop a mountain within an hour. Any delays or outside interference will result in the antidote's destruction. Frustrated, Karasuma struggles to devise a plan. The hotel is notorious for hosting illicit activities and is beyond governmental scrutiny due to its privacy policies. Terasaka opposes sending the youngest students as hostages, suggesting evacuating the sick to a Tokyo hospital instead. Takebayashi counters, arguing that moving them risks worsening their condition, and that no hospital could replicate a cure for such a specialized bioweapon. Koro-sensei steps in with a plan. Using Ritsu to investigate the hotel, he suggests the healthy students dress inconspicuously while Takebayashi and Okuda care for the sick. Arriving at a cliff near the hotel, Ritsu reports that the main entrance is heavily guarded, but the cliffs are poorly secured as they're deemed inaccessible. Koro-sensei proposes storming the hotel to retrieve the antidote if the caller's demands can't be met. In a post-credits scene, Irina Jelebi showcases her super secret skills series, including color-changing her face, assembling a model with her tongue, and demonstrating her expertise in impersonation. While Takebayashi and Okuda stayed behind to care for the poisoned students at the resort, the rest of the class and their teachers ventured to the base of a cliff to confront their new enemy. The hotel they needed to infiltrate was perched above, accessible only by scaling the steep cliff. Karasuma hesitated, doubting their ability to climb it safely. Just as he considered giving up and complying with the demand to send Nagi and Keano with the immobilized Koro-sensei, the students began climbing the cliff. Their determination shocked the teachers, who were impressed when the students revealed they had trained on the mountain behind the school for situations like this. Inspired by the students' resolve, Karasuma took charge of the mission, helping Irina and the unmovable Koro-sensei up the cliff. Once everyone reached the top, Ritsu completed a final scan of the hotel's security. They discovered that the main entrance was heavily guarded, and with the elevators disabled, they would need to ascend the stairs, a challenge complicated by their uneven placement, intentionally designed to thwart intruders. Inside the hotel, the group reached the reception area, only to find it teeming with guards. Moving unnoticed seemed impossible until Irina proposed a bold solution. To everyone's shock, she strolled into the hallway, pretending to be a drunken pianist who had arrived a week early for her performance. Her act, complete with a dramatic plea to let her play the piano, captivated the guards, drawing them away from their posts. Irina's musical prowess and movements bought the group 20 minutes to proceed undetected. The students ascended to less guarded floors where they could blend in, pretending to be wealthy guests. Koro-sensei explained that the young residents of the hotel often engaged in illegal activities to appear edgy, making the group's presence less suspicious. Buoyed by this, Terasaka and Muramatsu got cocky and rushed ahead of Karasuma, nearly walking into danger. Fua's quick thinking stopped them just in time when they encountered a guest who unleashed a cloud of gas. The guest turned out to be the butler who had served the students drinks earlier. Fua deduced he was the poisoner, noting the drinks were the common link between all the poisoned students, even those absent during dinner. The guest revealed himself as a hired hitman, noting Karasuma's visible distress from the gas exposure. Despite his weakened state, Karasuma delivered a swift kick, knocking the hitman unconscious before the gas could incapacitate him entirely. As Yuma helped Karasuma recover, the students realized they would need to continue without their teacher's guidance. Koro-sensei, amused by their predicament, remarked that this was what summer break should be like. His flippant comment enraged the students, prompting Nagi to spin him around in frustration. Koro-sensei clarified that their independent actions proved they had the skills to overcome their challenges, even without his direct intervention. Meanwhile, 2 additional hitmen waited in a nearby room. One casually ate food with his gun, demonstrating his bizarre habits. The students reached a scenic floor with a single man leaning against a glass window. The man shattered the window with his bare hand and called out to the group, punctuating each sentence with a peculiar HM. Intrigued by his odd mannerisms, Karma fearlessly asked about his speech style. The man explained he had studied samurais and adopted their way of speaking, though he wasn't Japanese. He declared himself a fighter who killed with his bare hands, relishing the prospect of a challenge. Karasuma, weakened from the gas, advised the students to avoid confrontation and reached for his radio to call for backup. Before he could act, Karma smashed the walkie-talkie with a potted plant, insisting they handle the situation themselves. Karma challenged the hitman to a fight, arguing it would be dishonorable for him to flee from a group of school kids. Koro-sensei observed Karma closely, noting a change in his demeanor. Previously, Karma had always kept his chin high, reflecting his overconfidence and sense of superiority. After his recent failures, however, his chin was down, a sign of humility. Though Karma's cocky attitude remained, he now approached challenges with a more serious and grounded perspective. As the tension rose, Karma and the hitman squared off, both ready for the fight ahead. Karma provokes Grip into fighting him, intending to call for help during the confrontation. Grip accepts, and their battle begins. Karma skillfully dodges and counters Grip's rapid hand strikes, knowing that a single grab from the assassin would be fatal. Karasuma observes Karma's moves and recognizes them as his own techniques, suspecting that Karma had studied him avoiding knife attacks in the past. While Karma prioritizes self-defense over lethality, Grip questions when Karma will make his move, implying that the fight can only end with his defeat. Karma reveals he could have distracted Grip and prevented him from targeting the students individually but chose not to. The fight intensifies as Karma takes the initiative, eventually delivering a decisive kick to Grip's groin, leaving him momentarily vulnerable. As Karma prepares to finish him, Grip suddenly releases a gas spray, catching Karma off guard and causing him to succumb to its effects. The students watching are shocked and enraged at this underhanded tactic, but Grip defends his actions, stating that in the art of killing, fairness is irrelevant. He holds Karma up to show how effective Smog's gas was in incapacitating him. However, when Grip lowers his guard, Karma surprises him by using his own gas spray to knock him out. Having anticipated this scenario, Karma had covered his mouth with a cloth to resist the gas's effects. As Grip, under the influence of the gas, tries to use a hidden blade against Karma, Karma swiftly disarms him and calls Terasaka for help. Together, they subdue Grip with duct tape as instructed by Karasuma. Grip, defeated, asks Karma where he obtained Smog's gas.
こんな化け物勝てないって。
Karma reveals he had taken it after Smog's defeat, foreseeing its potential utility in future encounters. Throughout the fight, Karma remained vigilant, avoiding Grip's lethal hands. Koro-sensei notes that Karma has grown more humble since his failure in the semester exams, though his mischievous streak resurfaces when he stuffs spicy paste into the incapacitated Grip's nose.
その意地を見せる時だね。
The students proceed to the 6th floor of the hotel, which houses a patio and bar. To advance further, they must enter the bar and unlock a door from the other side. Yuma warns that the bar, filled with guards and suspicious individuals, would make the boys conspicuous. Despite Karasuma's concerns, Megu Kadaoka and the girls volunteer for the task. Karma, however, devises a plan involving Nagi, who is apprehensive about the suggestion. At the bar, Yuji Narita observes the girls entering and notices one of them looking particularly uncomfortable, Nagi disguised as a girl. Yuji approaches and invites Nagi for a drink. To avoid suspicion, Kadaoka encourages Nagi to join him, assuring him she'll call if needed. Meanwhile, two men attempt to approach the girls, but Tokuyata intervenes, politely declining and flashing a Yakuza pin she borrowed from Arina, a former assassin. The men, intimidated, back off. Yada explains she doesn't want to rely on Arina's seductive tactics, but believes understanding negotiation and personal boundaries is a valuable skill. As the girls encounter a guard blocking their path, Kadaoka realizes they may need Nagi after all. Keano is sent to retrieve him. Meanwhile, Nagi endures Yuji's awkward attempts to impress him, which include boasting about his father and smoking marijuana. Nagi calmly confiscates the cigarette, admonishing Yuji about its dangers. Frustrated, Yuji tries dancing to gain attention but accidentally spills a drink on a guest, who angrily demands compensation. Seizing the opportunity, Yada signals Hinata Akano to intervene. With a swift cartwheel kick, Hinata knocks the guest out, and the girls dispose of him discreetly. As they regroup, Nagi reassures Yuji that impressing others, especially capable girls, is challenging but advises him to avoid using substances or flashy antics. Nagi quickly changes back into his regular clothes, relieved the ordeal is over, only to discover Karma had taken a photo of him in drag. Despite Nagi's horror, Keano remarks that the experience might have been worthwhile. Yuji, humbled, declines another drink and hands the marijuana cigarettes to a passing waitress. On the next floor, two burly guards stand in their way. Koro-sensei instructs Terasaka to use a concealed weapon, but Terasaka hesitates, doubting the octopus's judgment. Mimura taunts the guards to draw them away, allowing Terasaka and Muramatsu to ambush them with stun rods. Terasaka admits he originally obtained the weapons to use against Koro-sensei, but found a better purpose for them. Karasuma inspects the unconscious guards, finding 2 revolvers among their belongings. The guns are handed to Hayami and Chiba, the class's best marksmen, with strict orders not to kill and to consider non-lethal methods against the professional killers they might face ahead. The final hurdle is a concert hall, where the assassin Gastra blocks their path. The students take cover behind the seats, preparing for their next move. Gastra blocks the class's path in the theater, sensing their presence even though they remain hidden. He calls for them to reveal themselves, but Hayami fires a shot that misses, surprising Gastra, who hadn't expected real bullets. Gastra retaliates, firing through the gap between the seats, narrowly missing Hayami. Declaring the theater soundproof, he mocks their attempts and maintains his advantage. Koro-sensei sneaks to the front row to distract Gastra, who fruitlessly shoots at him, unaware that Koro-sensei cannot be harmed. Gastra starts deducing Chiba's position, relying on the sound of heavy breathing. Before he can act, Koro-sensei signals Chiba to fire. A figure emerges, drawing Gastra's fire, but it turns out to be a decoy created by Sugaya. The real Chiba takes a shot from a new position, startling Gastra. As Gastra mocks Chiba's aim, a piece of theater equipment falls on him, disorienting him further. Hayami seizes the moment and fires again, this time shooting Gastra's gun out of his hand. The boys tackle him, pin him to the ground, and tie him up. Despite the high-stakes fight, Karasuma reminds them that they are still just high school students. On the top floor, Karasuma, mostly recovered, takes down the last guard by choking him unconscious. As they advance, Nagi notices Terasaka seems uneasy. Nagi develops a fever and realizes that Terasaka was exposed to the same illness affecting their friends, but Terasaka silences him with force, refusing to be distracted. They sneak into the mastermind's room, discovering a suitcase rigged with explosives. As they prepare to disarm the man and seize the remote detonator, he unexpectedly tosses several identical detonators into the air, confusing the group. To their shock, the mastermind reveals himself as Akira, his face scarred and his demeanor unhinged. Karasuma explains that Akira contacted 3 freelance bounty hunters and a college student who had stolen classified Ministry of Defense materials. When questioned about his motives, Akira rants about seeking the reward and taking revenge on the class for humiliating him. His obsession with his tarnished reputation drives his erratic behavior. Akira singles out Nagi, taunting him about their previous fight. He insists Nagi only won through dirty tactics. Terasaka counters, arguing that Nagi played by Akira's own rules, but Akira silences him with manic laughter. Akira demands the class follow him to the rooftop helipad, where he challenges Nagi to another fight, offering the cure for their friend's illness as the prize. Despite Keano's protests about the escalating danger, Nagi accepts, stepping onto the helipad. Akira destroys the stairs to ensure no one interferes. On the helipad, Nagi tries reasoning with Akira, but Akira forces him to kneel and apologize for the past. Humiliated but determined to save his friends, Nagi complies. Akira, unsatisfied, seeks to crush Nagi's spirit entirely. He detonates the suitcase containing the antidote vials, obliterating the only hope of curing their friends. The class watches in horror as the antidote is destroyed. Nagi, overwhelmed by despair, locks eyes with Terasaka, who struggles to stay upright despite his worsening condition. Consumed by anger, hopelessness, and a thirst for vengeance, Nagi picks up a knife dropped by Akira, his intent to kill unmistakable. Nagi, consumed by rage, grabs the knife and declares his intent to kill Akira. The class watches in alarm, fearing Nagi may lose himself in the moment. Terasaka, despite his weakening state from the poison, hurls his stun rod at Nagi, snapping him out of his bloodlust. Gasping, Terasaka pleads with Nagi not to throw away his future by committing murder, reminding him of their ultimate mission to assassinate Koro-sensei. Before passing out, Terasaka urges Nagi to stay focused. Nagi steels himself, removes his jacket, and prepares to fight. Though tempted to use the stun rod, he opts not to, instead confronting Akira with just the knife. Akira reveals he has 3 vials of antidote, but it's insufficient to save all the 6 students, leaving it their only hope. The second round between Nagi and Akira begins, and the former soldier's heightened awareness and combat skills quickly put Nagi at a disadvantage. Nagi takes a brutal beating, prompting Koro-sensei to suggest Karasuma intervene if necessary. Terasaka insists it won't be needed, confident that Nagi has a strategy. Despite his injuries, Nagi maintains a faint smile, unnerving Akira. Recalling a technique taught by Lovero during their training, Nagi advances slowly, holding the knife to keep Akira's focus. At a critical moment, Nagi drops the knife, causing Akira to instinctively track its fall. Seizing the distraction, Nagi claps loudly, startling Akira and creating an opening. Nagi moves swiftly, delivering a decisive strike with the stun stun rod, electrocuting Akira into submission. As Akira collapses, Nagi thanks him for the lessons he inadvertently provided, offering a chillingly thirsty smile before stunning him again for good measure. The class erupts in celebration, relieved that Nagi has triumphed. However, their joy is short-lived as they realize the limited antidote won't suffice to cure everyone. At that moment, Gastra, Grip, and Smog appear on the helipad, initially seeming ready for another fight. Karasuma clarifies that their contracts are void since Akira has been defeated. Gastra agrees and explains that their friends were never in real danger. The hitman had replaced Akira's virus with a harmless substitute after learning he never intended to provide the antidote. As professional killers, their reputations and ethical standards were at stake, and they refused to harm innocent children. Smog hands over the medicine, assuring the class it will cure their classmates. Karasuma secures Akira for helicopter transport and detains the hitman for further questioning. On the way back to the hotel, Nagi thanks Terasaka for pulling him out of his rage, preventing him from committing a grave mistake. Terasaka brushes it off, insisting Naga's survival only makes their mission to kill Koro-sensei harder. Returning to the hotel, the class is relieved to find their sick friends recovering. Exhausted from the night's events, they sleep deeply until the following afternoon. Recharged, they don their military uniforms and watch as Karasuma traps Koro-sensei using anti-sensei BBs and reinforced concrete. After 24 hours, the concrete shatters in a massive explosion, and the students realize Koro-sensei has emerged unscathed, landing behind them in his usual form. The class enjoys the rest of their time at the lodge before returning to Kunugigaoka Junior High School, ready to embark on their second semester of assassination. That concludes the anime recap. As always, if you enjoyed, let me know down below and I'm out.